Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another episode of Love Inspiry podcast. Your girl took a little break because I had a little tussle with COVID and it kind of knocked me out real good. I have respiratory issues, so it was one of them things where it was rough for me. I'm still dealing with some after effects of it, and it's been a little bit of a struggle. Don't wish it on anybody that has any underlying conditions or anything like that, but I'm alive. I prayed for two things: that I didn't end up in the hospital and that I wouldn't lose my taste. Both those things happened. I lost my smell, had other issues. COVID turned into bronchitis, but I am still alive, so I'm most thankful for that. But today we're talking about materialistic relationships. I remember when I was little dreaming of certain things, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this story too. What I would be, I would dream about who I would be married to. I would dream about the things that I would have. And I didn't realize, and I'm sure you too didn't realize, the things we wanted as children, right, would change as we got older. And suddenly, at least I know for me, I started realizing a house with a white picket fence and 2 kids was not the goal. I started realizing that that job that I really wanted, it was not for me. I started realizing all of these things. And many times what we want as children is determined by our parents, by our grandparents, by our aunties, our uncles, our cousins, our siblings. It's not really, it's like a projection onto us, especially in the Black community. Either, you know, you had your family didn't go, or you're the first to go to college, or they didn't go to college. So what happened? They ended up projecting that onto you and wanting that for you because they didn't experience. But for me, there was more to life than what I was seeing right now. And that's what we're here to discuss today: how in relationships we are looking for everything, right? We're looking for everything we want in the moment, but not what will sustain us in the future. More specifically, we'll be focusing on in this podcast material things and having money in your relationship, right? Because it's a huge thing, and you know the idea came from the Kim, Kanye, and Pete Davidson situation. For those who don't know, I'll tell you a little bit more about it and how this podcast came about. But we have an elephant in the room to address, guys. And the elephant in the room is shallow women. Women that want the car, women that want the house, women that want the clothes, the image of I made it. That they neglect certain things to look for in a man. It happens all of the time. They neglect what is going to be important to them as they age and mature. Kind of like when we were children, right? What you wanted as a child typically is not what you want in adulthood. What we wanted is a little different now than what we wanted then. And again, that's like the Kim, Kanye, and Pete Davidson situation, where she had this lavishness until it became something that she didn't want anymore. It became something that she didn't need anymore, right? Because she can take care of herself. She can provide for herself. So those weren't important to her. She needed more. And I know tons of women like this, like financially stable women, that they don't need a man, or the first thing on their mind is not a man that has money or that is making money. I know a lot of successful financially stable women that money is not important to them because they can take care of their own. It's not on the list of what they want out of a man. Of course, you know, they want a stable man, but they don't want get my nails done for me stable, unless it's a gift or something like that. And I feel like, for me, I always felt like women, you know, shout out to my ladies, I love y'all, but I felt like we were a little bit more shallow and materialistic than men, because we can tend to be a little bit more needy. We can tend to want more. But sorry to my men, research shows that you are more shallow than women. And I believe that's, you know, because men are naturally competitive, right? Men have that spirit of competitiveness and wanting to be the best at what they are. I think we all have maybe a little bit of that in there, but this includes high status. This includes having money to make them feel secure in whatever room they are in. So I first want to define what materialistic is as pertaining to this episode. I mean, it's the definition. And materialistic is defined as obsessive over material possessions, more inclusive to money. It's someone whose value is in money and having things in an image of higher than. So when we're talking about materialistic relationships, we are talking about relationships that are obsessed with the image, right? Someone who values status, someone who values money, etc. And as opposed to valuing genuineness from a person, as opposed to valuing personality and character. In these relationships, they're often identified as relationship goals, right? Think about it. We see certain celebrities, we call them relationship goals because of what? We don't know them. We do it because of their status. We do it because they made the Forbes list. We do it because of the money that they have. But we don't know if they are genuinely happy. We don't know if they're content in their union. We don't know none of this because we're not in a relationship. And this is why I always say, don't model after celebrity relationships, because you don't know what's going on there. If you want to idolize, a good relationship, find people that you know that have good relationships, but don't idolize, celebrities, because you have no idea what is going on in their home or what it's really like over there. So I want to talk about where shallowness comes from. I want to talk about where materialistics stem from. And I wanted to point out 3 specific things that I've seen over the course of coaching women, over the course of just doing research on this topic and everything. And the first one was what women, and this doesn't just go for women, it goes for men too, but what we lacked as a child or in young adulthood, we are more likely to strive for that, or strive for more. And what I mean by that is, think about how many athletes that have success stories. Like, they came from the gutter. Rappers, right? They came from the gutter. Their mother was a single mother and she did all this work to get them there. Like, what you lack as a child, generally you're going to want more in adulthood. And I think that's where materialistics can stem from. Like, if you didn't have certain things growing up, you want them in adulthood. And I think that's something for us to monitor if we find ourselves being materialistic, is that, it's okay to want to have nice things and all that stuff, but when we value it, that's something different. Number 2, social media has caused this keeping up with the Joneses mindset, and it's truly messing us up to this very day. And that's why I always tell people it's very, very good to take social media breaks, because that stuff can kind of consume your mind, and it can kind of put you in a state of depression or feeling behind and left behind, as this person has it going on. And of course we know in the back of our head, like, everything is not what it seems, right? People are taking pictures and they're showing the best part of their lives. Some people it's real, some people are faking it. And that's okay. I'm not saying that, I do it too. I'm not going to show you every bad day that I'm having. I'm going to show more positive stuff and more, happy moments. If you follow me on my business page, then I'll, show you the negative side. But in my personal life, in my everyday life, no. When I go to social media, I want to see happy stuff, but sometimes that happy stuff can kind of put you in a state of, depression, because you're looking at it and you're like, my life isn't going this way. And like I said, of course we know that that's not the case. Everybody is going through something, but it still messes with your mind. So that's why I always tell people, take your social media breaks, please. And the third thing is why, where materialistic behavior, shallowness stems from, is insecurity and or any rejection that you have. Sometimes rejection will cause you to want to prove something to somebody. And when you're always trying to prove something to somebody, the only person you should be trying to prove something to is yourself. And so when you're trying to always prove something to somebody, that can put you in a state of depression too, because that's major work to have to continuously every single day show somebody who you are and what you're doing. And that leads me into the question of, do materialistic people have low self-esteem? And I did a lot of research on this topic because I wanted to bring my best foot forward. I didn't want to just talk my ish and tell you that, something's wrong with you for valuing stuff. But do materialistic people have low self-esteem? And I think for me, in part, yes. Some people genuinely like nice things, you know what I'm saying? Whereas other people, they hide behind their nice things. They're hide behind those nice things because they don't want to show their true, come out true sexuality, or because they have insecurities. But I also think the question would be, to piggyback on this whole thing, would be, how would you feel about yourself if you didn't have money, right? If you're talking about self-esteem and materialism, how would you feel about yourself if you didn't have money? Especially if you didn't have it before and now you do have it. Are you governed by your money? And does success to you mean or equate to how much money you have? Like, does your money mean that you're successful, or how much money somebody has, does that mean that that person is successful? And those are questions to answer for yourself. I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was like a booty model, and she was saying if someone tries to talk to her, the first thing that she Googles, obviously because she's dating high profile men, the first thing that she Googles is their net worth. And this has a lot to do with self-esteem, because the first thing I thought was like, well, that's the first thing that you do is Google their net worth. So that tells me right there that you don't value yourself, because you will accept anything from this person as long as their money is good. And I know some people are like, for me, money should be secondary. And I know some people are like, well, if the money is not good and they're treating me bad, then I will leave. But sometimes you can get sucked into that stuff and accustomed, and you stay through that. That's sometimes why DV victims stay through violence, because finances is a part of that, and you can't make it on your own. So that's not something something to strive for young people out there, young aspiring booty models. I just want to let you know. Celebrities in general, was doing research, have a divorce rate twice as higher than the average person. And I think in part, I don't know the numbers. I was curious to know the numbers with celebrities and average people versus celebrities and celebrities, what that looks like, but I couldn't find that research. But I can imagine that when you aren't in someone's tax bracket, the amount of strife that can cause, and money problems that can cause, because money, finances is in the top 3 causes of divorce. So I can see where that can become an issue with people as to, why they don't make it. I truly believe that there is a disconnect with people and money. Sure, money does make life easier, right? It provides you with the liberty to not only do the things that you need to do, but also the things that you want to do. And when you aren't prepared to have a whole lot of it, it can do more harm in your relationship than good. Some people, I truly believe, just aren't meant to have a lot of money or just be rich in general. I think that money, when people have it, they're either going to decide, okay, this is not enough, I want more. So now you become ungrateful. You don't show gratitude. They may end up going crazy, right? We've seen that with people that hit the lottery that end up going crazy. They may use it for evil and not good. And so those are things to think about. And I wanted to clarify something here for people that are shallow and consider money and everything, that just because you aren't rich does not mean that you aren't financially intellectual, right? That doesn't mean that. It just means that you just don't have money. Like I said, I don't feel like everybody is meant to be rich. I know there's like this thing of you can get money on the internet, you can do this and that. But I truly believe God doesn't want everybody to be rich. So, how does materialism impact a relationship? I want to talk about 5 different things, and how it can negatively impact your relationship. Something for people to think about and just stop being so materialistic in what they have going on. The first thing is, if you don't have a good relationship with money as an individual, if you bring that into your relationship, it will only heighten, your frustration in the relationship. There's a reason couples don't put their finances together anymore, and it's partly because the other person has spending habits and budget problems that the other person doesn't have. So now you run the risk of financial problems in your relationship. Now you're fighting over money all the time. So if you don't have a good relationship with money individually, most likely, if you don't have a partner that's good, it's just gonna be a disaster. And even if you do have a partner that's good, it's still gonna be a little bit disaster unless you choose to say, okay, I'm gonna learn from them. I'm not gonna make it about, I want to do better and I'm gonna learn from them. Number 2, if you are rich, right, it can impact your relationship too. It's not just for poor people, right? If you're rich, it can cause less communication in your relationship. So you're talking less to one another. Money is not an object. There's no teamwork in talking about finances. Number 3, the more focused you are on materialism and money, right, the less focused you are on other aspects of your relationship. So if your attention is all about money and what somebody makes and what they're bringing in, you're not focusing on all the other things that are needed to sustain in your relationship. Number 4, money can make you extremely picky, hence, and have unrealistic expectations for the future. And this is really, really important to think about, because when you are, a lot of women are going to remain single because of their unrealistic expectations. And money is one of those things where you kind of have to take a step back and really ask exactly what is important to you. Like I said earlier, nobody wants to be poor. I'm not saying go out and pick a bum. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, don't pick the poorer person because over the person that's rich, and the person that's rich is treating you bad. And number 5, the last thing that I want to talk about how it negatively impacts your relationship, is research has shown that people who are more materialistic and are less satisfied with life. Meaning, if you are less satisfied with life, it's going to rub off in your marriage. Anything that I'm feeling as a human being is rubbing off on my husband in his life. So if I'm depressed, he's gonna start to feel the burden of that. So it's the same thing. If you're less satisfied in life because of money, it's going to trickle over into your relationship. So the question leads us to, should you marry in your class? And the answer really is, it's your choice. It's your choice whether you want to marry in your class. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. And, Kim Kardashian is a prime example of that. Now, again, like I said, I don't think you should choose a partner or not choose a partner who is a poorer person because of their money, but I don't think it's anything wrong with marrying in your class and in your tax bracket. You don't have to. It's not a requirement. It doesn't mean your marriage is going to last or not going to last. It's just a matter of your preference. But like I said again, and I keep reiterating this, don't put the poorer person down for the rich person, thinking that that's going to save your marriage, because it's not. And if you look at the relationship with both Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, right? They're both billionaires. You would think they would have it all. You would think they would be gravy, like they would be happy, but she was missing something. She wanted to be with Pete Davidson because he makes her feel average. He gives her stuff, like she had all that lavishness. She had all that fun. And now she just wants to be a regular Joe. She wants to go out with no makeup on. She wants to walk around in sweatpants. And Pete Davidson is giving her that. And suddenly materialistic things, although she may be wearing Balenciaga leggings, but those materialistic things, they don't matter to her at this point. And so this is what happens with women. We tend to want certain things, like I said in the beginning, as children, right? We tend to want certain things in our teens and 20s, and by 30s and 40s, we're single because we didn't realize that the things that we wanted, they're not important to us at this particular age. And it works, vice versa too. But there's this thing called equally yoked, right? And when I think of being equally yoked, I don't think of financial situations. I think of being equally yoked as spiritually, because that's most important, right? Do you believe in God? For me, do you believe in God? Can I talk to you about scripture? Can we have Bible study amongst ourselves? Like, equally yoked meaning mentally. Can I talk to you about my emotions? Can you give me sound advice? Can you support me and encourage me through my times of need? When I think of being equally yoked, that's what I think of. I don't think of money. So how can we not be materialistic in relationships? How can we not be governed by money in our relationships? How can we pipe that down? Realize that money does not make the world go round. It's not everything in your relationship. It's not going to keep your relationship. It's not going to keep a man from cheating on you. It's not going to keep a man from leaving you. First thing is to identify if you have an unhealthy relationship with money. Do you find yourself buying the latest and greatest things, right? Are you concerned with image? These are things to think about in identifying if you have an unhealthy relationship with money. And listen, this is a self-evaluation. It's okay to say you have an unhealthy relationship with money. A lot of people do. But if you don't acknowledge it, then there's no way that you can fight through it and work through it and build yourself up to being more financially stable and intellectual. Number 2, identify where it came from. The root cause will help you find your answers. What financial trauma have you faced? So going back to what we talked about earlier, is it because you lacked in adulthood? Is it because you had somebody put you down in a relationship and say you weren't never going to be anything, so now you have to prove something to them? Identify where that came from. And then slowly develop your plan, number 3, the last step, to refocus your financial trauma. You have to understand where it came from, why it came from that place, and then you can develop a plan to work through that and work through the phases to redirect how you feel about things and what you and why you value it and not valuing it at that point. That was a little tongue tie right there. Guys, listen, I'm trying to get through this episode. It's a little rough, but we are here. I'm still trying to serve regardless of anything that I'm going through. And, I did a lot of research on this topic so I can provide some sound information. Overall, I feel like wanting more money and focusing on things you don't have will cause you to be more unhappy. That's why you have to be content in everything. Relationships are about building. So because your partner doesn't have something right now, it doesn't mean that they won't have it in the future. They never will have it. Ambition over everything, right? If somebody is striving for greatness, if somebody is actively working towards getting somewhere, then don't put them down because they're not there at this particular moment. So, we're going to end today's show. Next week on Love Inspiry Podcast, we're going to be talking about, patience. So that's going to be a good one. It's titled Patience 101. And we're going to be talking about having patience in your relationship. But I wanted to end today's show with a quote. Hopefully you guys understand more about materialistic relationships and how they can damage your relationships and how to find, just identifying within where that's come from. It's not your partner's fault. At this point, it's not even about how your parents' fault and what they did do or what they didn't do or where you were raised or the environment you was in. It's about you in adulthood identifying why you have unhealthy relationship with money or why you are so materialistic, and then developing a plan around that to fix that. That's individual. Of course, you can talk to me one-on-one to help you out with that, so you can better yourself in relationships and start looking for things that matter. Because a lot of us really, if you really think about it, money does not matter to us. It doesn't. That's what social media wants you to think, that it matters. That's what the devil wants you to think, is that it matters. I know a lot of people that have built with who they are with. And when you're married and you build, and I'm speaking from my experience right now, when you build with somebody, you build a genuine connection that nobody on earth can take away from you. So make sure you remember that. We're going to end today's show with a quote. 𝐍𝐚𝐦𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 you won't be happy with a yacht. So sit on that and really, really, truly think about that. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. I'll see you guys all next Friday. Have a blessed, blessed day.